Hello, family. It's my weekly podcast, blogger thingy, whatever. It's good to. I'm glad everyone's here. I'm always amazed at the number of people that watch this. I feel like no one ever watches it, but like I checked last week's numbers, 123 views on last week's video. So thank you, whoever's watching. That's fantastic. So I thought I would continue the talk from last week to this week about love, because it is kind of at the heart of who we are. You know, last week I talked about a little bit about homosexuality and love, and how the church should love those. Because we sometimes it looks like we don't, and the church doesn't hate homosexuals. It should love them. We talked about that. We talked about how love is a choice, and how that love comes at the heart of our mission and purpose as a church. And so you can't get enough of love. I think there's a song in there somewhere from somebody. You know what love is? I think was a song from my generation. But anyway, so I thought talk a little bit more about it. And guess what? I'm using the same book to talk about it. Yes, the Catechism of the Catholic Church. Can't talk about it enough. If you don't own your own copy, you should. Every Catholic should have a copy of the Bible and a copy of the Catechism, in a form that's portable and they can carry with them. They make a smaller version of this. It's really nice and handy. And they have, and it's on your phone. Yep, it's on your phone too. Both of them are on. Yeah, I have both of them on my phone. But anyway, so the quote from the Catechism says this: "Charity is the soul of the holiness to which all are called. It governs, shapes, and perfects all the means of sanctification." And sanctification is the process to holy, right? Holiness, becoming holy, becoming sanctified, right? Because we all want to be holy, because holiness is how you get to heaven, and we all want to go to heaven. Charity is just another word for love. So we could say love is the soul of the holiness to which we are all called, right? Love is at the center of that. And so to emphasize that, and the Catechism loves to do this, quote saints. Well, they use a lot of quotes from a lot of different places. Like if you look at the back, there's a whole index of quotes for like where quotes come from and who said what. But anyway, this one is from Saint Therese of Lisieux. And she says, and I've read this before in Mass, so if you remember it, I'm impressed. She says, if the church was a body composed of different members, in other words, a body with different members, like arms and legs, it couldn't lack the noblest of all. It must have a heart, and a heart burning with love. And I realized that this love alone was the true motive force which enabled the other members of the church to act. If it ceased to function, the apostles would forget to preach the gospel, the martyrs would refuse to shed their blood. And then this last sentence is in all capitals from Saint Therese. Love, in fact, is the vocation which includes all others. It is a universe of its own, comprising all time and space. It is eternal. So really, I think, we could, rip that apart word by word, but the general gist of it is that love is at the heart of who we are, right? If you don't have a heart burning with love, she says, right? Love should be the thing that guides everything we do in life. And I talked, just to give an example, I talked a little bit this morning at Mass. The gospel this morning was about the rich man who invited everyone to the banquet and no one came. They kept making excuses, right? I have to go buy this field, I have to go buy a cow, I have to marry my daughter, excuse after excuse. We constantly make excuses for why God isn't first in our lives. Even though God calls for our first fruits all the time, right? And God gives us his first fruits. Like God is always there for us, always by our side. No matter what we're going through, don't think that God is absent in whatever you're going through. He is not. He's always present, right? Remember I said last week, love is a choice, right? Not a feeling, but a choice. And so we can either choose to love into this situation we're in or not love into the situation we're in. We can choose to hate the situation we're in. And all we're doing by doing that is pushing God further and further away from us. Love must be the decisive thing in our life that makes us choose what path we take. And it must always be a path of love. So in our mission and purpose statements, those things look rough, right? Introducing people to Jesus. I don't even know Jesus. How can I introduce him to others? And together following him together, being in relation with him together, right? But if our heart is burning with love, like St. Therese says, if we're making love the priority in our life, then those things that the church calls us to do, mission and purpose, right? Those things, St. Patrick's Church calls us to do, well, church in general too, anyway, to be honest, then they should become easier, right? Less complicated, right? But when we keep making excuses about doing this or doing that, and finding many reasons why we are not doing what we're doing, right? The Lord should be our priority. What is our first priority? Love, which is God, right? And so that should be our first priority in life, whatever we're doing. And when we do that, we make a better church, we make a better family, we make a better community out of love. So John says in that epistle, 1 John, that God is love, and he talks about it in like 6 through 9, right? And if God can love us that much to do what he did for us, then at the heart of who we are, at the center of who we are, needs to be that same love. We need to reflect the love of the Father, right? Because he loves us so much that he did that for us. Why can't we exchange that love? What is blocking us? What is keeping us from that love? We need to figure it out. Like if we need to go to confession and figure it out, go to confession. We need to go to adoration, go to adoration. I've said this a million times too. The Catholic Church has many ways to draw us close to God. Through prayer, penance, the Mass, relationships with others who are struggling with what we're struggling with. You just find a way to make that love that is within us, right? That heart that is within us, St. Therese says, burning with love, so that it becomes, right, a part of who we are and the center of the church. Just imagine a church where apostles forgot to preach the gospel, right? Or martyrs refused to shed their blood. Like, we wouldn't have a church, to be honest. And so, like, if we want to keep our church growing and fruitful and multiply, like using old words, like, we need to have love first. And we need to show that love to others. So much so, and Father has said this before, that we say that other people look at us and see the love in us and say, hey, where does that come from? Where does that joy, that love, that passion for your faith come from? And you say, hey, I go to St. Patrick's and we love Jesus there. It comes from Jesus, right? Ultimately, it comes from the Eucharist that gives us the strength, or should give us the strength, to go out and love others and love our community. So I encourage you to focus on love as we prepare. We're a few weeks away from Advent, and as we prepare for the coming of the Word made flesh, the coming of love made flesh into our world, that you think and ponder those things. So God bless. Have a great weekend and week, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.